Hello everyone, Evelyn May Parker here. At 103 years old, my mind is still as sharp as a tack. Society often tells us that aging automatically means losing our mental clarity, that cognitive decline is just a random roll of the dice or purely a genetic destiny. I am living proof that this simply isn't the absolute truth. We have so much more power over our cognitive health than we're often led to believe. Getting older shouldn't mean passively surrendering your precious memories. Instead, it is a daily, active choice to protect and nurture your mind through your lifestyle and mindset. I still complete my daily crossword puzzles in ink. I enthusiastically tend to my vibrant garden every single morning, and I can clearly recall the names of my childhood neighbors. I've watched too many brilliant friends fade, and I promised myself I would actively fight for my brain. Your mind is yours to keep. Let's talk about the foundation of a healthy mind, what you put on your plate. For decades, diet trends told us to fear fats, but the biological truth is that your brain is made up of about 60% fat. It absolutely craves the right kind of fuel to function at its best. If you aren't feeding your brain properly, how can you expect it to keep up with you as the years go by? This brings me to my daily morning staple. Every single day, I eat 3 whole eggs, yolk and all, cooked in a pat of real butter. I have been enjoying this exact breakfast since before most of you were even born. For a long time, society told us to throw away the yolk and only eat the whites, but the yolk is exactly where the magic happens. That golden center is packed with a vital nutrient called choline. Your brain actively uses choline to produce acetylcholine, which is essentially the chemical messenger that helps you think clearly, process information, and hold on to your precious memories. When you toss the yolk, you are tossing away premium brain fuel. I have watched countless dietary fads come and go, often demonizing simple whole foods, but I always stuck to the real unrefined foods my grandmother served. At 103, I am still here, still sharp, and still thoroughly enjoying my eggs every morning. It is all about returning to the basics and giving your body the wholesome, natural nutrition it was designed to run on. Now, let us move on to the second pillar of my lifelong diet: rich, fatty fish. I am talking about the oily, flavorful kind that reminds you of the deep sea: wild salmon, sardines, and mackerel. I make sure to enjoy a good serving of these at least 4 times a week, and I have happily done so for decades. You see, our brains are incredibly hungry for specific types of nourishment, particularly omega-3 fatty acids known as EPA and DHA. Think of these healthy fats as the premium oil that keeps the complex engine of your mind running smoothly and efficiently. When we do not get enough of these essential nutrients, the connections between our brain cells can become inflamed and sluggish. Over the years, I have read countless articles suggesting that chronic inflammation is a quiet thief, slowly stealing away our precious cognitive function. To protect myself from that very inflammation, I made a deliberate and firm choice long ago about what I allow in my kitchen. Starting in the 1960s, society began heavily promoting highly processed vegetable oils, canola, soybean, and corn oil, sold in massive plastic jugs. I have never once cooked a family meal with them. From my personal perspective, these highly refined, factory-made oils easily oxidize, which I believe only fuels the inflammation we desperately need to avoid in our arteries, our joints, and most importantly, our brains. Instead, I strictly adhere to the natural fats my mother and grandmother used. I proudly cook with real butter and traditional fats. I prefer the wholesome ingredients nature graciously provided, not something a chemist invented in a distant laboratory. By prioritizing natural omega-3s, I have given my mind the ideal environment to thrive. Let us talk about my favorite morning ritual and the incredible power of nature's own pantry. Every single morning, without fail, I stir a generous spoonful of raw, bitter cacao powder right into my coffee. Now, I am not talking about those sugary hot chocolate mixes loaded with tiny marshmallows. I mean the real, dark, earthy cacao that tastes like pure strength. Through my years of reading and living, I have learned that raw cacao contains a wonderful compound called PQQ. From my understanding, it acts like a natural signal to your body to help build fresh energy engines, or mitochondria, right inside your brain cells. My grandmother simply called it good medicine, and I couldn't agree more. Alongside my coffee, I always enjoy a large handful of fresh dark berries. Whether it is blueberries, blackberries, or raspberries, I say the darker, the better. The beautiful rich colors in these fruits come from natural plant compounds like polyphenols and anthocyanins. I like to think of them as my brain's personal cleanup crew, helping to soothe inflammation and protect my delicate neurons. Nature made them sweet and delicious on purpose so we would want to eat them. That is certainly no coincidence. But just as important as what I do eat is what I absolutely refuse to eat. I have never touched anything that comes out of a crinkly, brightly colored plastic bag with a cartoon character on it. Highly processed foods are incredibly hard on your digestion, and I firmly believe that when your gut is unhappy, your brain is unhappy too. There is a direct highway between your stomach and your mind. By treating my digestion with absolute respect and eating real, whole foods, I am actively protecting my memory and keeping my mind vibrant. Now, wholesome food is wonderful fuel, but the engine itself still needs to be driven. I want to talk to you about the daily habits that actually keep my mind sharp. The most important rule I live by is this: I never ever retired my brain. When my formal working years came to an end, I firmly refused to just hand my mind over to a television screen and tell it to sit quietly. Every single morning, I make sure to do something hard, something that actually forces me to think. Whether it is completing a complex crossword puzzle in pen, writing a detailed letter to my great-grandchildren, reading a challenging new book, or solving a problem I haven't tackled yet, I keep my mind fully engaged. You have probably heard the old phrase, use it or lose it. Let me tell you, that is not just a catchy line on a motivational poster. From what I have seen in my 103 years, it is the absolute truth of aging. Your brain acts very much like a muscle. If you are not actively demanding things of it, it simply assumes you do not need it anymore. Over the decades, I have sadly watched dear friends stop challenging themselves. Quietly, their mental connections seemed to fade away, until one day they went looking for a familiar word, and it just wasn't there. But mental exercise must be paired with physical movement. Now, I do not run marathons, heavens no, but I do walk every single day. After my morning eggs, I step outside. I take deep breaths of fresh air. I actively look at my surroundings, and I feel the solid earth under my feet. Getting up and moving increases the blood flow right up to your head. I have read over the years how daily movement acts almost like a natural fertilizer for your neurons, encouraging them to stay strong. They used to tell my generation we couldn't grow new brain connections as we aged. I am still walking, still learning, and still proving them wrong. Here on Real Talk with Time, Elderly Life Lessons, my greatest hope is to inspire you to get up, get moving, and challenge your beautiful mind today. Let us move on to something that so many people in today's busy, rushing world seem to have completely forgotten how to do: getting a proper, deeply restful night of sleep. I am going to tell you a secret that has kept me going for 103 years, and I am not ashamed of it one single bit. For the past 4 decades, I have been safely tucked into my bed by 9 p.m. every single night. I sleep a full, uninterrupted 8 hours, and I fiercely protect that time as if my life depends on it. Because, quite frankly, I believe it does. Somewhere along the line, society decided that sleeping was a sign of laziness. We started praising people who burn the midnight oil and rewarding those who run themselves into the ground. But from my long century of living, I can confidently tell you that treating sleep like an inconvenience is a terrible mistake. Sleep is absolutely not laziness. It is essential, non-negotiable brain maintenance. Over the years, I have read fascinating articles about how the brain actually works while we are resting. From what I understand, when you finally drift into a deep sleep, your brain initiates a remarkable natural cleaning cycle. I like to imagine it as a gentle tide coming in, quietly flushing out all the daily waste, the used-up cellular debris, and the exhaustion of the day. If you are constantly cutting your sleep short, you are never giving your mind the chance to run that vital nightly sweep. Instead, all of that mental clutter just sits there, slowly piling up year after year. I have watched far too many younger folks, and by younger, I mean those in their 70s and 80s, brag about only needing 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Yet, I noticed they were often the first ones to start losing their train of thought or forgetting familiar faces. Here on Real Talk with Time, Elderly Life Lessons, I want to lovingly urge you to change your perspective on rest. Go to bed early. Turn off those glowing screens. Let your mind rest, recover, and beautifully restore itself for tomorrow. You are not missing out on anything late at night that is more valuable than your own cognitive health. Let us talk about the spirit, which is perhaps the most surprising piece of the puzzle. In my 103 years, I have noticed something profound that you will rarely hear discussed. I firmly believe, based purely on what I have witnessed time and time again, that holding on to deep bitterness takes a terrible toll on the mind. I have known good folks who did everything right. They ate perfectly, they exercised daily, and they took all their vitamins, yet they still lost their cognitive clarity. What did they have in common? They carried decades of unresolved resentment like a heavy stone, a grudge against a neighbor, or a decades-old fight with a sibling. Chronic stress from holding on to anger floods your body with tension, and over time I truly believe it slowly wears down the very part of your brain where your precious memories live. I made a point to make peace with everyone I needed to, including my own difficult mother. It was not easy, but when I finally let go of that ancient hurt, I felt physically lighter and mentally clearer. Forgive people, not because they necessarily deserve it, but because your beautiful mind deserves absolute peace. Hate is simply a poison, and you are the one drinking it. Beyond forgiveness, you must find your purpose. I wake up bright and early at 5:30 every single morning because I have a busy, wonderful life to live. I have a garden that needs my attention, a great-granddaughter who calls me every Tuesday to share her secrets, and thoughtful letters that simply must be written. Your brain desperately needs a job to do. I have watched too many people retire from their careers and accidentally retire from life itself. Give your mind a profound reason to wake up. Finally, please hear this. Do not wait to make these changes. The time to eat well, to sleep deeply, and to forgive is right now. There is no later. I am Evelyn May Parker, 103 years young. My mind is still entirely mine, and I plan to keep it. Thank you for joining me on Real Talk with Time, Elderly Life Lessons. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. I love you all.